Hello and welcome to Lesson 6. This is the up-level course, and in the last lesson we talked about profitability. Now, one of the things that leads to profitability is consistent business or repeat business. So we're going to cover a little bit of that today. So we talked about consistency, and we talked a little bit about how being consistent can be often more important than being good or being great. So you need to be predictable. Like when you go to McDonald's, you know that your burger's going to be not the greatest burger on earth, but it's going to have all the ingredients and it's going to be exactly what you expect in terms of temperature, size, presentation, etc. Now, particularly if you're going to scale something, you need to be able to deliver consistently. If you're the one who is the only person that can do that thing, and yes, it's absolutely perfect, amazing, and brilliant when you do it, but nobody else can do that thing, then you don't have a scalable business model. So you need to be okay with a consistent level of quality. It may not be as perfect as when you do it or when you've created this amazing thing or when you spend a certain amount of time on that thing. However, there is a flaw to the level of quality reduction. So it's between a bracket. It's not below a certain level, and hopefully you can get as perfect as possible. Maybe someone will make it perfectly. In order to scale it consistently and be able to have it at a certain level of quality over and over again, you need to be okay with a range in that quality, one that will allow you to have a margin of error. Now, whilst we're saying there is a degree of quality or a margin of error that you have to be okay with, that doesn't mean that we can't consistently deliver a good service. It's like when you walk into a shop and they say hello and they smile at you. Yes, they're told to do that. And even though that's very simple, if they do it for every customer, or they do it for most customers, it's still that margin of error where maybe they didn't greet that customer one day. It doesn't mean that's the end of the world. The customer can walk in and, all right, well, they were busy. That's fine. But they've come to expect a certain level of standard. They've come to expect that most of the time when they walk into that shop, they're going to smile, they're going to greet them. Consistency can be, in a clothes shop example, where most clothes are on the rack. There might be one or two things that are being packed away, that's fine, but most clothes are where they should be in the right size order. Maybe one person's walked into the shop, grabbed something, held it up, looked at it, decided it's not for them, and then put it back in the wrong spot. That's fine. If I see one or two products in a shop that's not perfect, that's okay with me. I get it. People walk into shops and they move stuff. But at least if they've made a consistent effort to try and keep it reasonably good most of the time, that's consistent enough. And it doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be amazing. And the customer understands that this is just the way that businesses work. But you can build into the process ways to wow your customer. For example, we send a gift out to our customers, which is a small bag of coffee. And every time they receive that, it's a nice welcome change to the usual crap that they get from marketing materials, like water bottles and pens. So it kind of stands out. It's a little bit more costly, but I think it really hits home as a great message. And as I mentioned, it's also about limiting the negatives. So having your customer complaints process, how does it run? Do you have one at all? When someone complains, do you offer them a discount? Do you say sorry and please come back again? Or do you just blatantly ignore them? Different experiences, even when the things go wrong, can shape the way the customer perceives you. And getting honest feedback can be really, really valuable. Most people don't complain, they just simply don't come back. So your complaints department is when someone is really annoyed. So that's the really high pressure moment. Most people don't just go and complain for no reason or to get a discount. Yes, that does happen, but it could be a great way for you to connect with your customer and find out the core issue. Ask 5 why. Why is this a problem? Why is this a problem specifically for you? When did this become a problem? Etc. And by reviewing your customer complaints or by reviewing your active customers with, for example, a survey, you start to identify trends and patterns. What keeps people in your business as a customer? What makes them leave? What reduces the friction of someone buying? And as you start to evolve and change these elements, you increase the likelihood of people coming in, of staying, and reducing the likelihood of them leaving, which then helps the retention in your business, which also helps increase the amount of money they spend with you over a period of time. The next thing you can do to increase the likelihood of customers staying is to create a structure or a process so that that then becomes repeatable. However, when you're creating a process, yes, identify the points that fail, the points that slow down the relationship, or the points that perhaps are not as enjoyable of an experience or not as efficient. One of the things that you need to be careful not to do is to processize so much that you remove the soul from the experience. The customer might like the way something happens because it's quaint, or it allows them to think, or time to reflect, or time to enjoy a particular moment, but not if you structure that step out of the process because it makes it more efficient. For example, I once attended an awards ceremony. And yes, I paid money to attend the awards ceremony and get a ticket and then go sit down and have the dinner and then listen to all the other people getting their awards. And when it was my time to get up for the award, the first time I went to this awards dinner, everybody got to give a 30-second speech. This time when I went, I didn't get to give a 30-second speech. I got shuffled out to a back room to say it to a camera. So I didn't really get that moment of validation, and it left quite a bitter taste in my mouth. So I felt like the award was really just about a way to generate money and not actually a way to recognize businesses for the work that they've done. So that's an example where the process became more efficient because they separated the award speech from the actual award ceremony, but that also meant that they killed the soul of the event. It also was a problem that I had to then go and purchase a package to then tell everybody about my awards acceptance. Ideally, by creating a process diagram for your product or service, you can actually reduce the time it takes to deliver, which helps reduce your work in progress. And then ideally, you've served the customer faster, and you've also increased the amount of capacity that you can take on. But you need to be constantly unblocking bottlenecks in your service to make it run faster, more efficient, and create a better experience for the customer. Another thing that writing down the process helps with is training the next generation of staff that need to go and carry out that process. So if you've got it written down, it makes it a lot easier instead of you having to show someone manually. By writing it down, you can processize it. You can turn it into an online course or a video script or something that trains the user on how to do that thing. Then through the process and through the training, your product or service then becomes more consistent and more predictable. With that margin of error, you've now reduced the likelihood that things will go wrong. It now means that you can rely on other people to deliver your product or service, which then allows you to scale. And now that it's become more reliable and better on average, because the process is better on average, now you're going to increase your word of mouth referrals, which a word of mouth referral is 5 times more likely to buy than any paid advertising will ever give you. It also means that that referral costs you nothing other than providing a good service to that particular customer. You also need to ingrain it into your company culture that everybody follows the process. This could be a process that is produced and that is written down. And if a process changes, it doesn't matter because everybody's referring to the process at every step. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Perhaps a checklist could help also with this. Even if you have a very complex process and what seems like a very unique way of delivering to the customer, there can be quite often patterns that emerge where there are certain phases at higher levels that help guide the structure of the process. So it's not completely custom every time, because that then means that it's not predictable and that one person's experience is going to be completely different from another person's experience. So it's not really going to assist you in that scalability or in the ability to train and provide that capability to somebody else. Another way to improve your process and your focus on your customer is to remove tasks that are not essential or that are not your core skill. You can do this by completely deleting the task or outsourcing it. Now, yes, you should probably outsource something that you're not good at to someone who is excellent at it. However, you should never outsource the core capability of your business. For example, if you're horrendous at bookkeeping, get a bookkeeper. They're cheap and easy to implement and can save you a lot of time for you to go and do better activities in your business. However, if your strength is customer service, you should never outsource your customer service. Now, once you've built the systems in your business, remember that if anything goes wrong, it's not a problem of the person, it's a problem of the process. So you need to start thinking about the concept of systems thinking, in that your business is a system of systems. And if anything goes wrong, then it means that something wasn't written down correctly, that something wasn't updated, that you didn't record a video on it, that you didn't have a checklist or a process, or that you didn't train your team effectively. So it really comes down to the system is the thing at fault all the time. Yes, you can drive team culture, you can work on team values and things like that, but you should never really attack the person for a job poorly done. You should be thinking more about how you can make a change on your business or on your training systems in order to enable the people to do what you ask them to do. If there's other performance issues, well, that's a separate discussion. However, it is generally the first thought is that it is your systems that are not running correctly. Now, if someone is not quite right for the role, now there are other ways to look at this. You can either re-skill them, you can either place them in a different role, or you can look at having a conversation around termination and looking to find the right person and the right fit for that role. However, if it is your first time hiring people, it may not be obvious that you actually need to train your people. Sometimes people expect that others will know what to do, but as the business owner, you have a lot of assumed knowledge. Same problem occurs when you're going to create content and articles and information for your team on how to do certain things. They're going to miss steps because you think that such and such a task is obvious in a long chain of events. However, another person coming into it for the first time may not know, may not have had that experience, or may have a whole bunch of other experiences that they can bring to the table. So you should communitize your knowledge, discuss it, and come back with a better consolidated idea that involves a few people on what the process should be. Training can also help motivate the team because as they become more skilled and more professional, they feel as though they're working on their career and that they're actually gaining some valuable experience that they can use for the rest of their life. So training can be a motivator, and sometimes using external training providers can provide a different perspective or new ideas or fresh thinking into the organization. And remember that learning comes in different forms or different channels. You've got explicit learning, which is written down. It's black and white. It's obvious. You can write it down because it is factual. It is something that can be discussed as an idea. However, tacit learning is something that needs to be experienced. For example, if I'm going to learn how to turn a key in a lock, there's a lot of fine muscle movements. And if I've never done it before, I might do it too rough or in the wrong direction and then break the key in the lock. Learning how to drive is another example of a tacit learning event where I have to learn by experience. I can't read it in a book, jump in the car and be like a rally driver the next day. I need to get in, I need to feel how the car moves, I need to feel the motion, I need to be able to understand how to move the clutch and or gears, etc. So sometimes you need to create training experiences. Another thing that is constantly left behind that I notice is training for leaders. So eventually you're going to have leaders in your organization as you start to scale up. You need to give occasions to put these people in charge, to put them in front of the team and not just take over yourself all of the time. Otherwise, you're doing yourself an injustice by not allowing the ability to take a step back. You need to empower other people in the organization to lead so that you can give them a direction, give them a set of goals and objectives, and then just step back and see how they go. They might do better than you. They might know things that you don't know. They might be able to surprise you. And that's a really good thing. The more you train your team, the more you will be able to take a step back and not be involved in the everyday minutiae of the business. In the military, there's a concept of mission command versus central command. Central command, every decision has to be run through the leader. In a mission command environment, you allow smaller teams to be able to do missions, tasks that they've been given with certain parameters and a deadline to be able to achieve them by. So that overall, if something were to happen to the commander or if something couldn't get through in terms of information, etc., that the local commander would be able to make a decision and move forward. Anytime a customer or an employee has a problem or a question, it's an opportunity to create content. This is going to be the thing that you can then send out next time or allow it to become searchable using a database or a knowledge base or something like that. So by doing that, you now free up management time, not just for you, but for other leaders in your organization. And if the employees know that the standard thing is to go and search the knowledge base before they ask a question of management, then if the question's not there, management know instantly that there is no article that's there, or perhaps it's not been made, or perhaps the employee has not been trained to go and look there yet, or perhaps it wasn't easy to find. So now we have an opportunity to improve the tagging on the document, an opportunity to improve the training of the employee and or the training materials provided to the employee, which also then allows that employee the training to then go and look for other articles, questions, and problems that they have throughout their career. And whilst it may take time to create these articles and pieces of information, answer it once, answer everybody. There's articles I've written and videos that I've created where thousands of people have accessed this information. So imagine if I had to go and answer these people one by one. It would actually take years of my life just to answer all of the questions about this one particular issue. A system that's well developed has earned the right to be followed. And the reason why is because if great customer experience can be attributed to a great system, then your staff and your customers are going to expect that you follow the system. That means that you know that by collecting this information at the start of the process, it saves heartache down in steps 2, 3, 4, and 5, that it makes it a lot easier to justify following the system works. Don't mess with it, it works. This can be further proven to your customers and to your staff by saying those that followed the process had experience A, and those that didn't follow the process had experience B. And this is why we do the process the way that it's been laid out. So I encourage you right now to go and create a knowledge article, go and create a video, document a process, even just starting small and then do a little bit every day. Create a calendar entry to do it every month to write a new article, and do the same for your team. It's even better if your team are involved in the process, and that way you can collate, bring together the best ideas and then put them into a verified and certified signed off copy of, yes, this is the company process. And that needs to be updated and maintained. And there are systems that can help you maintain that. But basically, it's really, really important that everybody is singing off the same sheet of music. And if there are any changes, that those changes are communicated and that everybody can access the latest version without any version control problems creeping in. Otherwise, that'll cause some other issues down the track. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye out for the next lesson.